Morning, good afternoon, good evening. Yesterday, I posted a video in which I argued that Zimbabwe is a failed state because we have allowed Zanu PF to rig elections for the last 45 years. And this has reduced our right to a meaningful say in the governance of the country to a mere token. Yes, Zanu PF has held regular elections, but those elections were so flawed, so illegal, that the only logical step was to withdraw. As David Coulthard argued in his book, and I've quoted this book many a time. We have participated in these flawed elections for no other reason other than that the opposition, MDC, had failed to implement even one token reform during the GNU when they had the golden opportunity to do so. And after the GNU debacle, they have participated in flawed elections out of greed, which is exactly what Coulthard is saying in the quotation I'm showing at the bottom of the screen. This argument has been said so many times. You don't have to repeat it over and over again. But one of the reasons why Zimbabwe is a failed state is because we've got Zimbabweans out there who are incapable of rational thinking. And yet they have a voice, a vote, and they wield a lot of political power. Here is one of Chamisa's lieutenants, one of his main supporters, Chief Svosve. He has been MDC CCC representative in North America for donkey years. Many of you have heard him on Change Radio. And he fired right back and he said, it's either you're the most confused person on earth or you're very dumb, or a very dumb operative. Are you not the one who is always attacking the opposition for participating in elections? At least you acknowledge that participation in elections is a little vestige of political power. So why do you demonize both Tsvangirayi and Chamisa for giving people an opportunity to exercise their birthright as citizens? One is left speechless. The opposition, the MDC, when they were launched in 1999, they came on the promise they would implement the democratic reforms to stop Zanu PF rigging the elections, and thus restoring the people basic freedoms and rights. They failed to do so. Mugabe bribed them during the GNU, and they forgot about reforms. And ever since the GNU, they've been participating in flawed elections out of greed. The people of Zimbabwe have not risked all to elect these MDC CCC leaders into positions of power so that they could continue to participate in flawed elections, so flawed, so illegal, that the only logical thing to do is to withdraw. And yet, they've been urged to participate. And those who've been urging them to participate now want us to praise them. That after all, Chamisa and company were doing the right thing, asking people to participate in these flawed elections, even if they were rigged. At least they were enjoying the last vestiges of people's power. The point is, the opposition were not elected to maintain so that people can continue participating in rigged elections, but to implement the reforms to stop Zanu PF rigging the elections. That's the whole point. The argument is so irrational that one has got to really ask, does this person know what he's talking about? How more irrational can you be? Because if we follow this argument to its conclusion, one has got to say then that if MDC CCC guys failed to implement even one token reform during the GNU because they were content that people would still continue to enjoy the vestige of power in the form of participating in flawed elections. Then what has happened now, what Mnangagwa and company are proposing to do now, is to amend the constitution. And if they amend the constitution, those little vestiges of power, of people power, participating in rigged elections, will be taken away from them. I repeat, if Zanu PF amend the constitution, they'll be able to postpone 2028 elections so that the people will not have the opportunity to participate in the flawed elections. In other words, they will have lost the last vestige of people power. And let me assure you, once the people have lost that power, the power to a meaningful say in the governance of the country, we can be certain of one thing. It is the beginning of the end. What is going to happen next is that Zanu PF will be able to postpone willy-nilly elections as and when they see fit. In other words, if Zanu PF rigs the referendum, which is almost certain that they can do so, because we all know that the process of elections in Zimbabwe is flawed. And so far, the opposition has been participating in these flawed processes to give Zanu PF legitimacy. And so we can expect Chamisa and company to participate in the flawed elections, in the flawed referendum, which Zanu PF will be able to rig and amend the constitution. So we started with the opposition, whose number one task was to implement the democratic reforms, to stop Zanu PF rigging the elections. They did not do so. They failed to implement even one token reform in 25 years and counting in the opposition, including the 5 years in the GNU. And our friend Chief Svosve wants to argue that we must be grateful to Chamisa and company for that, because that has allowed the people to enjoy the little vestige of people's power in participating in flawed elections. And if Zanu PF should rig the referendum, which no doubt Chief Svosve and Chamisa will argue that people should participate, just as they've argued people to participate in flawed elections in the past. And after participating, they give the process legitimacy. And this time, the people will lose even that last vestige of people's power. Our friend still believes that we should be thankful to Chamisa and company for that. It's amazing how somebody could be so totally irrational. People of Zimbabwe, ever since the War of Independence, they have fought and many have lost their lives in the fight for one man, one vote, for the right to a meaningful say in the governance of the country. It is a pity that people for the last 25 years have risked all to elect MDC-CCC members into power in the hope that they will implement the democratic reforms to restore the people's right to a meaningful say in the governance of the country. And these people have sold out, and now they've even got the audacity of suggesting that we should be grateful to them for selling out. Because after all, we've been participating in rigged elections. We've had the privilege of participating in rigged elections. I ask you, Chief Svosve, if Zanu PF amends the Constitution and take away that last vestige of people's power, are we expected to be thankful to Chamisa and company for having sold out when they had the opportunity to implement the democratic reforms to stop Zanu PF rigging the elections, they sold out, leading to this, where this is the last act for Zanu PF. They are now taking away the last vestige of power. And we are to be grateful to Chamisa and company. How anyone could be so totally irrational beggars belief. Here is a man with a lot of power and influence. Change Radio has reached millions of Zimbabweans out there. Or should I say, has brainwashed millions of Zimbabweans out there. The challenge for the referendum is that we should not participate in a process that is so flawed, so illegal, that the logical thing to do is to withdraw. SADC and the AU election observers condemned 2023 elections as flawed and illegal. While anyone can argue that they would still expect us to participate in a process that they themselves have judged to be flawed and illegal, and give their blessing, beggars belief. The argument here is, if Zimbabweans participate in those flawed elections or referendum, as they did in the 2023 elections, 2018 elections, 2013 elections, SADC will be left no choice. If we Zimbabweans decide we want to participate, it is our choice. SADC has said this abundantly clearly. The process is flawed. The process is illegal. But if you want still to participate regardless, that's your choice. But we should not expect SADC to step in and deny Zanu PF political legitimacy after we have participated. Thank you very much. Have a good afternoon.